Reggie here, your friendly neighborhood bodybuilder and comic book collector, and I want to welcome you to another one of my live streams. This live stream is the Comics Today show. This is a show that we do on Wednesday at 7 p.m. to celebrate New Comic Book Day, the best day of the week. And as a reminder, we do this show and then we rebroadcast parts of it on the podcast. And the podcast is available on all the platforms out there, your Spotify, your Apple, I think your iTunes, certainly Podbean. We are out there. So if you want to take a little Regie on the go, you can actually do that. We release podcasts every single Monday morning at 7 a.m. Pacific time, soon to be possibly Eastern Standard Time is when we're going to release it. But this is a show that we do essentially to celebrate New Comic Book Day. And we're going to be talking about some news and current events. And I typically have a guest on or two that will help me to make sense of something that is actually happening in the news. We're going to mix things up tonight. We're actually kind of sort of going to have three guests, and you're going to see what I mean by that. This day is about hitting the local comic shop, picking up some comics. And I will tell you that I did not make it to the comic shop today. I did not make it to either one of my shops because each one of the shops actually had some issues getting their books in. So I did not make it to a single shop. But I will show you guys some books that I actually picked up last week that will probably not make it to a video because I'm not going to be filming any more videos. So, from this location, from this locale, I'm not going to be filming any more videos, but I will show you guys some of the books that I picked up. And as soon as I do that, I'm actually going to go to the chat and I want to see what it is that you all may have picked up at your local comic shops. If you pick something up, if you read it and it was great, let us know that so we can put it on the top of our stack. If you did not pick up any new books, but you picked up some back issues, we want to know about that as well. And as you all may have already just seen, the theme for this show is actually going to be a follow-up to something that we talked about on Sunday. And that is the AT&T merger that is actually going on. We were able to find a lot more information out there following the Sunday show because they made a lot of announcements on Monday morning. Had a ton of people send me a lot of great information about the AT&T deal and what is actually going down. So I want to spend a little bit of time talking about that in this episode, but there is going to be one other thing that we're going to talk about before we get to that. And then before we get to that, we are going to talk about some comics that came out. So I actually picked this book up last week. This is X Corp issue number 1. This is the 1 in 25 variant right there. I thought that was a pretty cool cover, so I went ahead and snagged that. Also picked up the regular cover of X Corp. I started reading it. It's okay. It's not terribly exciting. I'll be completely honest. X Corp is not terribly exciting. But I'm going to try to continue to power through it. I was super excited about this title when it was first announced many months ago, and then was delayed as a result of the pandemic. I don't know how much changed. I have a feeling that if memory serves, I think the creator went back and rewrote everything as a result of having more time. And I don't know whether that was good or bad, to be honest with you. I don't know what the previous version looked like. But this is Hank Howard, Pizza Detective. I just realized as I show this book that we actually have from Scott P. a blog post that actually does a review of this that I have yet to put up. So I'm actually going to try to get that up later tonight when the show wraps up. So you guys will be able to read that on regiecollects.com. So stay tuned. Picked up this book. Time Before Time. This is the 1 in 25. Actually did not know anything about this title until you guys told me about it during, I think it was last week's show. People were like, Time Before Time, Time Before. I'm like, what is this? I went to the comic shop. I picked it up. I read it. While parts of it were a little confusing, it is actually not a bad read. So Image Comics continues to do the thing with Time Before Time. And to that point, they are doing it. Certainly picked up Geiger. I picked up 3 covers of Geiger. This is by far my favorite. I dig the radioactive symbol in the middle right there. Definitely dig Geiger. If you have not read that, I definitely encourage it. And then the last book that I'll show you, I have a lot more books that I picked up, but the last one that I'll show you is Whalesville. This is one that I picked up. This is a Bad Idea book. It is a square bound book. It is big. I have not yet read it, but I'm actually looking forward to checking this one out. This is Whalesville. And again, shout out to Bad Idea for doing some things that are different. And I think putting out some good content. I mean, I've read everything that they've released thus far, with the exception of the ones that I just showed that I have yet to read. But I'm definitely enjoying some of the stuff that they're putting out. I think there's a video that's going to be coming out at some point next week after next. I'm not sure, where I actually talk about one of the books that I read. I give you guys a little bit of insight into my thinking there. All right. So with that said, I'm actually going to go to the chat to see what you guys may have picked up. And that's essentially how we're going to do our shout outs. Almighty Liger King is basically saying the time before time was pretty good. I cannot disagree with you. I cannot disagree. The Russian Bear is in the house. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Those Geiger covers are fantastic. Yes, they are. Like I said, I picked up 3 copies. I went to my guy and I was like, hey, what covers do you have for Geiger? He walks over to me with 3 of them. I'm like, yeah, I'll take all 3 of those. I'll take all 3. All right. So a couple of people, one person, Paranormal Skills Gaming, shouting out the Wonder Girl. I guess that's the Wonder Girl that actually came out today. Hopefully you guys have better luck in your respective areas. Every single shop in my area had an issue with both the DC shipment and also with the Marvel books as well. So I think everything's back on the shelf now. So I may try to hit up the shops tomorrow. So fingers crossed. GP is in the house. He says, my first live stream. How you doing, GP? Well, welcome to the live stream. Everybody gets 1 video a year. And this live stream is dedicated to my man, GP. I'm guessing you're a guy. If you're not a guy, my apologies, but it's dedicated to GP. If anybody else is in here for the first time, give us a shout out, put it in all caps. It actually helps me to be able to see that a little bit better. And I'm certain that the blue wrenches are going to welcome you as well. There you go, right there. Doug says he's interested in the Whalesville book. I watched one of the Bad Idea guys open it up, unbox it, and was pleased with the production quality. I have no clue what the content is, so I'm actually looking forward to reading it. L. Smith is in the house. L. Smith, just the highlights of what I picked up this week. ASM 66. Berserker 1, the shiny 4th print, that 4th print, man. Shiny foil calls me. It's like a siren song. Daredevil 30, Nottingham issue number 3, Redemption 4, Shang-Chi issue number 1, Way of X issue number 2. That's the one that's a little more religious, right? Isn't that like Nightcrawler's book, if memory serves? Wolverine, I think that says 12, and many others. Mark is in the house. How you doing, brother? He picked up Noctera issue number 3. It is a good read. It is a good read. Limited variant 416 of 500. The Bequest, Lighthouse, the Chimerian, Black Knight, Stray Dogs, a lot of Red Room. I have seen Red Room pop up a couple of times, but I don't know a thing about it. I am intrigued because it is red and I am a fan of that. So scrolling through, Lafayette just picked up Amazing Spider-Man 579. That's what's up. Scrolling through. What is this? Master Blaster. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Said picked up Frank Miller, Daredevil, and Dark Knight back issues, plus that original art. That original art, brother, was dope. So it sounds like the deal worked out and everything is A-okay. I'm hoping that means you received it and everything is good. If not, I'm certain that you'll update me. Jerry, my man, I could not agree with you more. DB is in the house. How you doing, brother? It is good to see you. Scrolling through the comments, seeing who else is in here. Lafayette picked up Fantastic Four issue number 144. That is good stuff. And I'm scrolling back up because I may have skipped over a lot of people. Joey, same here. No time for the comic shop. I did pick up a copy of Moon Knight issue 188, the first print, the non-lenticular. That is a word that I always struggle with, so I'm patting myself on the back that I was able to actually say it. I did a recording. On Tuesday for my job, right? So I am actually sponsoring a video related to my job. And the agency that I'm working with out of New York basically asked me if I would be willing to do the voiceover for the recording. And so I could not necessarily, well, I technically did say no, but then I came back and was like, yes, I'll go ahead and do it. It's an opportunity to do something cool. I'm saving myself on one side a ton of money by being my own talent versus having to hire somebody. So it's like, it works in my advantage. But as I'm recording this thing from literally this spot right here. I'm recording and I have like 8 people that are watching and listening to me record this thing. And I would do 3 takes of it. And then they would give me feedback on whether they liked one or one or more version of what I did, or if they needed me to redo it with different emphasis. And it was during these readings that I realized that I do not always fully pronounce all words. And so it was like, it was super painful, super painful. I can't remember what the one word was, but I just struggled with it. And he was like, can you not pause after you say that word? And I'm like, brother, I'm struggling with the word, hence the pause. It's not intentional. I'm just trying to make sure I get through this thing. But lenticular is one of those words that I struggle with. Scrolling through voiceovers. Richard says voiceovers are just a small cry from character voices. You're Casey, bro. Casey Kasem is he passed away? Was an incredibly talented guy. I watched a video that someone put together of all of his various voiceovers and things that he did over the years. And it's just incredible, incredibly talented gentleman. X11 Bravo. Good evening to you and the wonderful wife. Congrats on, I think it was your 10th anniversary you were mentioning to me on Patreon. Picked up Action Comics issue number 344 and 366. That is what's up. And this is when you found your love for I don't know, Juggernaut, how you doing, brother? I said to them, they said to me, Reggie, it's the room and the audio sounds a little airy. And I said, I tried to pad the room as best I could. I was like, I'm in the middle of packing. I don't really have, many materials to use. And then one of them said to me, after I had already made these statements, said, do you think you can like hang a curtain and speak into the curtain? And that's when I get a little irritated because I then have to repeat myself. And I'm like, I'm moving and I have no possessions and no ability to hang a curtain for me to speak into. So no, I don't know if I've discovered a love for doing voiceovers, but it was fun. It was a fun little activity to do. And I honestly cannot wait until the final actually comes out. Rob, you're going to have to drop one of those G's from that. Neo, but it is good to see you, brother. Thank you for swinging by. Absolutely appreciate you. This dude right here. This dude right here is incredibly smart, incredibly talented. This is Rob, Northeast Ohio Sports Card. He's actually been on the show a couple of times. I've had an occasion to speak to him offline as well. Incredibly savvy guy. He can't spell to save his life, but is a really wonderful guy. And there may be an opportunity for him, Doug, and myself to come back together to have a conversation. I essentially facilitated an exchange between Doug and Neo. And then Doug was like, hey, do you want to get on the phone right now and talk about it? I'm like, brother, I have so much stuff to do. I cannot do it at the moment. But these are just really awesome people that I enjoy chatting with. So he says, oops, no worries, brother. No worries. All right. So there are some things that I want to get to over the course of this live stream. And one of them definitely is going to be the AT&T Disney news. I'm sorry, AT&T and Discovery news that broke a few days ago. We are definitely going to talk about that. But before I get to that topic, there's one other thing that I want to speak about. Over the last few weeks, we've had some conversations, some of which included Doug and some of which included Neo and other really talented, insightful people like Alan. But we've spoken about things like marketplace manipulation. We've spoken about bad actors that exist in the community and in every community where money is involved. We've spoken about the importance of demonstrating critical thinking skills when it comes to spending money, right? We have to analyze the things that are coming in and make sure that they actually make sense for us. And so following these various live streams, I had an opportunity to talk with our next guest. And my conversation with the next guest actually involved a little bit of like some scam stuff, potentially some scam stuff, but my guest was able to think critically about this stuff and sort out what was actually happening and did not fall for the scam. But there is a reason why scammers do what they do, because people fall for it. There's a reason why we see the same scam over and over and over and go from platform to platform to platform, because it works. And so I want to have my guest come on and I want him to spend a little bit of time talking with us about what it is that he experienced, with the hope that we can all be a little bit more knowledgeable and hopefully prevent some of this stuff from happening to members of this community. That's why we're doing it. It is not to talk bad about anyone. It is not to say that, the community itself is bad. It is to say, hey, there are bad actors out there. Let's know what these bad actors look like and let's protect ourselves. So it is in that spirit. That I welcome our guest to the show, Matt Woods. It is good, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, Reggie. How about yourself, man?
I cannot complain, my friend. You look good. You sound good. It is like wonderful to see you.
The last time I was on here, my volume was way down and I had to up the game because the great man Regie Collects invited me onto this show. So yeah, I had to do a little bit of upgrading of the system here.
That's what's up, brother. I'm glad that you were able to do it. And I'm certainly glad that you were able to join me for the show. So you were backstage. You were able to hear some of the things that I talked about. Talk with us briefly about what it is that you experienced recently that you identified as a potential scam that you want to make people aware of.
Well, like you said, not everybody is a bad actor. And I want to stress my story. I don't think everyone is going to be after you, but you got to watch out. I had a gentleman. I did buy a book from him, and it seemed to go all right. But then the first thing that drew my attention that this might not be right, we agreed on a price, and he was from overseas, and then he said, "Hey, the shipping was more than I thought," so he asked for some more money, and I wasn't a real big fan of that, but I was like, all right, I can give it to him because the book actually was sold to me for a relatively decent deal. But then after I had the book in hand, about a week later, he messaged me again and he goes, hey, is there any chance that you can accept a PayPal payment in my behalf and then send me the money with a different app, a different cash transfer app? And it kind of just like, wait, what? And he wrote on there, you seem like a solid guy, so I trust you. Reggie, I don't know that I trusted that guy, but so I'm glad he trusted me. But then what had happened was I'm like, yeah, I can't do that. I can't help you out. Literally, the guy wrote back to me on Instagram just a couple hours later, and he goes, hey, are you still looking for any books? I got some, I need some cash. And I'm just like scratching my head. I'm like, what's this guy up to? I actually asked him, I said to him, well, the only way I'll be able to pay you is PayPal. And he's like, well, I got that fixed, so I can accept PayPal. So his story just clearly did not make any sense. And I think we've had these scams on other venues before, the email scam that accept this payment and pay me back.
Yeah, so let's break this down. Basically, this is a person that you did business with, and everything was fine.
Everything was fine. Actually, it was a nice transaction, to be honest with you.
Until it wasn't. So, but then after the transaction was complete, he basically says, my PayPal is locked up. Can you take a payment from somebody else via PayPal and then send me the money, via some other app, right? And then shortly thereafter, he comes back to you and says, hey, do you want to buy a book? We can do the transaction via PayPal, because magically within a few hours, whatever was locking up his PayPal had been cleared up. Am I hearing that correctly?
You hit it on the head. And I think P.T. Barnum said it best. There's a sucker born every minute. I just didn't want to be that sucker. And I'm worried that some other people might fall for that type of a trick. Especially when
you don't necessarily have a relationship with this person, but you did have what I call a transactional relationship, right? Where you did a deal, the deal went fine. And now it's like you've built, maybe in his mind or in other people's mind, a little bit of a connection. And it's like, okay, well, now let's take advantage of this relationship, this connection that we have, to see if I can get this guy for some cash. And I think, to your point, people might actually fall for that for whatever reason, whether it's the sob story or whether it's the fact that they did a deal or two deals and everything was fine. And then now all of a sudden this person had experienced some trouble. We like to help. And that may be what he was kind of looking for. Would you agree with that?
Everything you just said is spot on true. But one of the things I've noticed about the comic book community, we have some extremely intelligent people in this community. I mean, I will talk to people and they will route off or spout off what issue this character appeared in, what panel that they fought this other character in. And we have some pretty sharp people in the comic book community. But I will say this, we are also extremely friendly. And I feel that gentleman tried to feel that somebody being friendly was the same thing as them being naive and not quite bright. So I hope that this type of scam doesn't, like I said, I hope other people don't fall for this.
And you know what's crazy, brother, is that when you were telling me, when you told me about this story, it might have been later that day or that next day that I was watching something on Netflix. And it was, I think it's a series called Money or something like that. And I think the very first episode actually dealt with scams associated with money. And one of them was the old, the Nigerian prince thing. I'm coming into this money, but I need you to send me some money so I can give you some money. And as I'm sitting there working out, I think I was processing what you had told me, and I'm watching this and I'm like, oh no, we got to talk about this. we got to, because again, these scams exist and people run them from platform to platform to platform. Why? Because they actually work. And the goal is to make sure that none of us get taken advantage of. And it doesn't matter whether, you're new to the hobby or you've been in the game for a while. I think we're all susceptible potentially to getting scammed. And that's what this exchange is about.
Yeah, it was, I think we've all received those emails, like, hey, please, like you just said, please send me money so I can release more money to you. And I don't know who falls for them, but people do. Good-hearted people, they want to believe in that, like miracle, if you will. And so hopefully this doesn't continue, but we all know it will.
And we are definitely a trusting group. There is no doubt about that. I mean, I've done some stuff that I wouldn't necessarily normally do because I've had like a back and forth with someone, and it's like, I've done stuff, and I won't say what I've done, but I've done some stuff that normally, like if you were just a regular person, not part of this community, I'd be looking at you like, no, I'm not doing that. But we are a trusting lot, and there are bad actors out there that will take advantage of it. And I think what's important is that we're talking about a small group of people. We are not talking about the community as a whole. The community as a whole is wonderful, but whenever money is involved, there will be a couple of bad actors that try to take advantage.
I can't stress enough how much just like outpouring of support people in the comic book community give each other.
Yep.
We are very trusting. We are very honest as a whole, for the most part. Again, one bad actor. But other than that one person who really did send me the book that I paid for, I've never had an issue, whether it's buying books on Instagram, whether it's buying books, over the phone, whether it's, eBay. I've never had an issue ever before. So I hope that this is just one bad actor and maybe he's not even a bad person. Maybe he was just in a bad position and try to do something unscrupulous.
There you go. Or he just, I don't know. I don't want to read into it because we don't know that it was a scam, right? I think you feel that that there was something a little suspect there, but we don't know for a fact. And I think your last point about not necessarily casting dispersions upon this person. And also, I don't think that you reported this person because, again, you don't know for a fact. So I think that that's just, again, something that we want to be aware of. And this is all about trying to make us smarter about the hobby. And that's why I wanted to have you on to talk about this experience. But before I let you go, brother, where can people get a hold of you on the social media and on the YouTube machine?
Well, the only social media I have is Instagram and YouTube. You can find me at Matt Woods Comics on YouTube. And also, that is my name on Instagram, Matt Woods Comics. And there's an underscore between Matt and Woods and Comics. So
there we go.
Matt, yep, there we go.
No, I think people got it, brother.
Yeah.
And plus, you're always in the chat, so you're not that hard to find, except when you fell asleep on me the other night, saying you were tired or something.
Hey, you see, I'm in a hotel room right now, right? I'm doing a lot of traveling and a lot of working. So
no, you're doing good work. You're doing good work out there, brother. And I definitely appreciate you coming on to spend a little bit of time with me.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Regie.
All right. That he is such a good guy. He really is. So this guy travels all the way across the country and hangs out with me here at the house when we did the last Garage Con. And it was honestly a pleasure to get to meet him and spend a little bit of time talking with Matt Woods. There is a reason why this guy's a blue wrench, because he's just an awesome, all around solid guy that I genuinely enjoy. So with that, I do want to transition into talking about the news. You need to block them. You're probably right about that. I do want to spend a little bit of time talking about something that we talked about very briefly on Sunday show, on the Ready, Set, Go preview show. And at the time, I was referencing an article from Newsarama that didn't have a ton of detail. And at the time, I had not had an opportunity to dig into the detail myself. But then lo and behold, we got some help from several of you out there that started to see some additional news come out from respectable, news outlets. And you started to send that information to me. I was able to read some of that stuff, not all of it, but I was able to read some of it. And so I want to spend some time talking about this deal that has been announced, this deal that will essentially allow AT&T to divest itself of its media business. And this is actually an article from the New York Times. I actually had to sign up to get a free membership, if you will, to get access to this article. In a deal with Discovery hatched in secret, AT&T sheds its media business. The telecommunications giant will spin off Warner Media in a transaction that will combine HBO, CNN with Oprah Winfrey's network and also HGTV. And so I want to kind of walk through this article just a little bit, just 3 years after it thundered into Hollywood with grand visions of basically streaming video to millions of customer cell phones. I think their goal was to try to use the media side of what they acquired to differentiate itself from its competitors, because they've been getting their tails kicked by their competitors, AT&T that is. And they basically announced that they're retreating from those plans and will spin off Warner Media and merge it with Discovery. And so you can see here, this blockbuster deal will create the second biggest media company in the country by revenue, with a sprawling business that touches on streaming, entertainment, movies, sports, and cable news. This merged company, which might have a value north of $100 billion, will rival companies like Disney and will actually be second, I do believe, to Netflix, which is the industry leader in streaming right now. And this transaction will basically, as I alluded to earlier today, let me see if I can find the paragraph, will combine HBO, Warner Brothers Studios, CNN, and several other cable networks with a host of reality-based shows from Discovery. And I do enjoy the Discovery stuff, as I've mentioned to you guys before. I definitely enjoy the content that comes out from there. But in order to get a little bit of insight into what some of this stuff means, I actually reached out to a couple of folks, and I specifically reached out first to my man Pretty Fly for a Filipino guy, and he offered up a little bit of insight here. He says, I think the WB's future is brighter with Discovery than AT&T. I scratched my head at first because Discovery is known for their reality content. So why would WB want to team up with them to form a new entity? And it is an interesting thing to kind of think about, like, what is the rationale behind it? And the truth is, I think that, AT&T probably realized that they got themselves in over their head, and they're like, we just need to get rid of this thing the same way they've been trying to get rid of, I think it's DirecTV. They've been trying to get rid of that asset that they acquired and didn't quite know what to do with it after they picked it up. And it seems like the media side is something that they acquired that they don't really know what to do with. And so here's the rest of that quote. Pretty Fly for a Filipino guy goes on to say, the numbers show that Discovery knows how to grow. The growth comes from knowing how to develop their content, which Discovery has more to offer WB than a company that only knows how to sell cell phones. And I honestly cannot disagree with that. I like Pretty Fly for a Filipino guy because I think that he works in or around this industry. And so he definitely appreciates a lot of this stuff better than I. And I think that I think that there are potentially people that are a little worried about what this merger, this spinoff might actually mean for some of the folks that work at Warner Brothers, because there could be additional jobs that are lost as a result of these two companies coming together. But you might also be wondering what numbers Pretty Fly was talking about. So here are some of the numbers, and he sent this over to me. He basically points out here that Discovery's, and I think it's Discovery Plus, which is their streaming service, actually has 15 million subscribers to their global portfolio. And what Pretty Fly basically said to me is that this is very different, because Discovery is basically putting out there in their quarterly reports and all this kind of stuff what is actually happening with their subscriber base. Their subscriber base is growing and now represents 15 million subscribers. Now contrast that to AT&T and what they were doing with HBO Max and the Snyder Cut. They were not releasing those numbers. They were not telling us how many people actually signed up, which is not a good sign. We actually did cover some of the performance numbers of both Wonder Woman versus the Snyder Cut. I released that video. I think it was a live stream. We actually looked at some of those numbers a few weeks ago, but they have been, AT&T that is, less than transparent with some of the subscriber data, which might actually say a lot. So the other thing that I wanted to do is I took, in addition to Pretty Fly for a Filipino guy, I wanted to get some additional insight from another person that kind of appreciates some of this media stuff, that appreciates the business side of things, that is also a fan of DC. And so I went to my man Joe, Anachronic Comics. He provided me with this quote. He says, "I believe that this merger may end up being a good thing for the DCEU and DC comic book fans. I was involved as an attorney in a few of these types of deals, and the statements of the new company's executives are always a clue." And I think that that was a pretty insightful kind of comment that that Joe made there. And he went on, if I can share my screen one more time, he went on to add to that. This is why I need a producer. This is why I need a producer to pull this stuff up. He says the newly merged company will be headed up by David Zalav, I think that's how you say it, of Discovery through at least 2027. He said on Monday that they were aiming at 40 million subscribers. They are at 15 million subscribers right now, that being Discovery streaming. We don't know what the numbers are for HBO Max, but they are setting a pretty high bar here, saying that they are aiming for 40 million subscribers. Joe goes on to point out that in his comments, David, that is, he mentioned Batman and Superman, and that the Time Warner DC intellectual properties will be significantly important to that growth. That media asset will help them to actually get to that 400 million subscriber base that they're aiming for. And so one of the big questions here is what is going to happen to DC Comics? And the truth of the matter is that I don't think that we know. I don't think that we know that. But here is a quote from David. He says, "I believe we're going to be the best media company in the world, with an ability to reach everyone in the world because our stories play well everywhere in the world." World domination. I mean, he is like, we are taking on and capturing the entire world because what we say is attractive to everybody in the world. I mean, he is not messing around here. He goes on to basically, this quote, or this statement from the New York Times article, goes on to basically say that David is going to be the head of this new company. It also talks about the sad part that the person that was actually heading up Warner Media is probably going to be shown the door, because he actually did not know about the transaction until the very end. And so definitely a sad thing. And again, it alludes to the fact that there's probably going to be some people that are actually losing their job. So I actually have Matt in the green room here. So I want to actually go to him for a moment to see whether he has any thoughts on some of what has already been shared. Matt, you've been back there listening. I saw you smiling at various points. Do you have any thoughts on this whole AT&T Discovery thing that we just walked through?
I have a few thoughts on this one. If you are a comic book fan and you love Superman, you love Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, so forth, this is the greatest thing that could happen to you, because AT&T, it's a very large company, but their focus is on the 5G network that they're going to have coming out here, not comic books, not even the HBO Max. HBO Max has 64 million subscribers. Okay, that's a lot. Disney Plus has 100 million. Did I say 64,000? 64 million. 64 million subscribers. Netflix has 200 million subscribers. Now what Disney has is they have content to add on to that to make more and more shows with all the backdated content all the way back to 1938. So yes, and Discovery, they want to take those and move it on to their television and make movies. Like Discovery is they're all about entertainment, and Pretty Fly is absolutely right. Like they are going to take this and take it to the next step.
And so I think that what I'm hearing you say is that this is potentially going to be a good thing for those people out there that haven't necessarily been pleased with the direction that the DCEU has been going in, and that by having someone like David be at the helm of this organization with all of this content and intellectual property at his disposal, that we might actually see some good movies that come out versus maybe what people have been seeing over the last few years. Is that a fair takeaway from your comments?
Absolutely right. And even the comic books, okay? Like we all, whenever DC dropped, help me out here, Diamond, whenever DC dropped Diamond, we all were like, well, it's got to be for the best, it's got to be for a better, good reason. But it really wasn't. It didn't really add anything. And we just want to give them the benefit of the doubt, but AT&T wasn't making good decisions when it came to the Disney property, whether it be the comic books and the DCU. Now they did put out the Zack Snyder movie out there, so that was a great thing that they did. But let's see, they were talking about not doing it anymore. So hopefully Discovery can take it and then just move it on to the next step.
I mean, they were also forced to do the Snyder Cut, right? I mean, there was a groundswell of interest from people kind of demanding that. So they were almost put into a corner to do that. And, I think that, we probably all know this. The comics are one of the things that is most important to many of us, right? We love the movies, but the comics are also, and I personally have not seen an article that actually talks about the comics. And the reason being is because I think when you really look at what the comics bring in terms of revenue, it gets rounded off into the zeros, and it doesn't necessarily bubble to the surface when you're talking about the numbers of 400 million subscribers or whatever it is. This is not the topic yet, and I think it is to be determined what the ramifications of this will be for the comic side of things. But now, I think. Oh, please jump in there, brother. Jump in there.
I was going to say the fanboys and all of us. Now, we hope that they recognize that they have a lot of intellectual property that is being done in comic books, which is making the movies. Now, we all know the MCU is just wildly famous and popular, making lots of money, but it's because they went to the comic book stories, and that's how they got people interested in watching the movies. Hopefully, like I said, the fanboys and all of us, hopefully we realize that they recognize the intellectual property that they own, and they try to, put more effort into the actual comic books.
And that's exactly where I was about to make that turn to say that the guy, David, who is going to be the head of this organization, I think he's a media guy, and I think he likes telling stories. And I think he hopefully will recognize that there is 80 years, if you will, of rich history and rich intellectual property that can be leveraged. And to Joe's point, he referenced Batman and Superman, which is him giving a nod to the fact that he has arguably, two amazing assets that are recognized around the world. And so if you're talking about world domination, there's nothing more iconic than a Batman and Superman logo, unless you're talking about Spider-Man, which is arguably and possibly the best superhero like ever. Besides
Spider-Man,
Conan. Besides Conan.
Spider-Man and Conan need to do a team up. That's all I'm saying. Just
Spider-Man needs the help from Conan. All right, brother. Well, thank you for coming on to chat with me. I definitely appreciate it. I'm gonna let you go now, but I appreciate you.
All right. Thanks, Reggie.
Awesome guy. All right. So the great thing here, not the great thing, but the interesting thing here is that this deal is actually going to allow AT&T to walk away. They're basically going to be able to walk away from this whole media thing if it actually happens, right? Because this deal is not expected to actually go into full effect until I think the middle of next year. So they're looking at least a year away from being able to finalize this thing. I'm guessing through all kinds of regulatory bodies are going to have to get their eyes on this thing. But as part of the deal, AT&T will get cash and bonds that will amount to $43 billion, allowing it to shed some debt. Now, listen to that. They're going to get $43 billion, allowing them to shed some debt. That tells you a lot, that they have a lot of debt. And that's actually something that we've spoken about before. This article from the New York Times goes on to say that AT&T can now refocus on its wireless business, which has been battered as customers keep switching from one rival service to another. I wonder why. All right, so let me go to the chat real quick if I can get the chat to actually work here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to, so let me try. I may have to share my screen one more time. So for those folks that are coming in a little bit late, we've been spending a little bit of time talking about this article right here that actually came out from the New York Times that talks about the Discovery deal that was hatched in secret that allows AT&T to actually shed its media business, and as you just heard, allows them to refocus on what they probably need to focus on, which is their underlying wireless business, which has been suffering. So Alan here is giving a little bit of a nod to Climbing Comics. Oh man, so I'm sorry. Alan was giving a nod to Matt for making some good points here, but I cracked up here because Joe, who was a DC guy, is calling out the fact that there were two Marvel guys having a conversation about DC, which is hilarious, but I did consult with you, my friend. So I'm very thankful you were able to share with me your wise words and thoughts about what was actually happening with this deal. So I'm very appreciative of that. I have to take a moment to acknowledge this young man right here, young Matthew in the house. It is good to see you, my friend. I hope that you are doing well over there. Scrolling down through some of the comments, seeing what else. Don't let the door hit you, AT&T. And Adam Close is saying that AT&T can kick some rocks as they walk down the street with their head hanging in shame. So scrolling through some of the comments here again, see what else you guys might be talking about. Again, I'm very interested in hearing what people think about this thing. John says that DC is darker than Marvel. Having HBO will allow them to do shows with a dark R-rated stories. Yeah, I don't know that I disagree with that. I do not disagree with that. The one argument that I would make is that weren't they already part of HBO? Yeah, they were already part of HBO. So technically they could have always done that. They just did not do it. And I think that there's a lot, maybe some leadership gaps that prevented them from being able to go down that path. But again, hopefully the people that are going to be in charge of this new organization will hopefully know how to leverage that intellectual property and know how to make magic happen with these great characters that DC actually has. So scrolling through some of the comments here, what is this? There is a plethora of source material at their fingertips. Dale the Suspense says, the question is, do they know how to leverage it? Can they make magic with or spirit fingers with those fingers that are touching all that great content? Well done. You can't have the movies without the comics, says Comic. That's what's up, brother. Definitely appreciate that. Scrolling through some of the comments here. Seeing every big production company has been jockeying for position, trying to get a piece of the crazy money that comes with the movies. More Marvel and DC movies equal more new comic book collectors. I don't know that I disagree with a single word of that. Don't know that I disagree with that. I think that a lot of these companies are trying to scale up. They are trying to find intellectual property that can be turned into movies and into TV shows. I've said it before, and I will continue to say it, that I think that this is a golden age. We have some amazing content that is coming out in the form of comics. We have some amazing TV shows and movies that are being derived from those comics that we all get to enjoy. And this is a wonderful time. And, it is almost every day. It's almost every day, if not a few times a day, that I get a message from somebody that is like new to the hobby, newly returning to the hobby, that is excited to be back and to come into this hobby. And it is really, really awesome. And I'm honestly having a great time. And I hope that we continue to see more and more people kind of flow into this thing. So Pretty Fly, your timing is impeccable. I spent half the show actually talking about you and all of the great insight that you provide me offline about some of this stuff. So you'll have to watch it on repeat now, brother, because you missed it all. So for those folks that are coming in a little bit late, we covered off on a couple of topics. I had Matt Woods here. He spent some time talking about a potential Prince of Nigerian scam that he encountered recently. And we offered that up with the hope that we can actually protect more people out there. So I definitely encourage you to watch that. And then we spent the bulk of the time actually talking about this AT&T Discovery deal that is going down that allows AT&T to divest itself completely of the media side of their organization, and also to pay down some debt. And so again, if you guys missed that, I definitely want to encourage you to go back and check that out, because there's some good stuff there. So scrolling through some of the comments here, Mark says, small screen DC does fairly well. It should take off with Discovery. Then into movies, start buying Rip Hunter Time Machine. Yeah, I would agree with you, man. People seem by and large to be very pleased with the TV shows. They seem to be very pleased with the TV shows. It is the movies oftentimes where there's a little bit of a disconnect. And for me, again, I'm not the biggest DC guy, right? But if you have if you have a Superman in the show, I kind of want to see the same Superman in the movie. That's just me. I think it's just cleaner that way. But I don't know. It would be great to see somebody come in that actually has a strategy, that has a desire to see some really good movies and more TV shows to be made. So fingers crossed that this deal actually goes through, and that they get the right leadership team in place that can actually make some magic happen. So scrolling through some of the comments here. What is this? Will we have a Ready, Set, Go on Sunday? We will. We will indeed. This is my second to last show that I'm doing, live show that I'm doing right now. We're actually going to hopefully be able to successfully execute a Ready, Set, Go this coming Sunday. We're going to give away, I don't even have the book close by. We're going to be giving away a book on Sunday to one lucky subscriber. Let me see if I can find it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, this is the book right here. This book right here, Captain Marvel, technically Marvel Superheroes, issue number 13. We're going to be giving this book away. But that Sunday show, that Ready, Set, Go this coming Sunday is actually going to be the last live show that we're actually going to do from this location. And then after that, we're going to be out of here. So, all right. I think I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Scrolling through the comments, making sure that I am caught up, and I am. Tina, thank you very much for that. My family is actually leaving out of here on Saturday. They are headed out of here on Saturday, and I'm going to hold down the fort here, get everything onto the truck, and then I'm going to catch a flight to North Carolina. And then my family will join me shortly thereafter. So my wife is allowing me to do a lot of the heavy lifting. So I want to applaud her for allowing me to do that. Let me make sure that we're all caught up here. I think we are. They need to pay attention to the Paramount Star Trek. They use the same actors. Yep. I'm telling you, that is the way to go. That is the way to go. Thank you, Vox. I definitely appreciate that. All right. So again, I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me just a little bit on this Wednesday night, the best day of the week, that being Wednesday for New Comic Book Day. I definitely enjoyed interacting with you guys. Huge shout out to my man Matt Woods for joining me on the show. Shout out to Pretty Fly for a Filipino guy, and also Joe for providing me with a tremendous amount of insight and those quotes that I was able to share with you guys on screen. As always, if you need to reach out to me, feel free to do so on Instagram. I am not too hard to find. Take care. Technical glitches. Gotta love it.